Hey guys, my name's Nova, this is Film Express, and today we're going to be talking about the new Darren Aronofsky movie, Brendan Fraser's return to form, and his Oscar-nominated performance in The Whale. Guys, Darren Aronofsky has been one of my favorite directors for the past 20 or so years. Ever since I saw his first films, Pi and Requiem for a Dream, I was a huge fan. He kind of understood how to make you feel very, very strong emotions while watching a movie. He also did one of my favorite films with Black Swan. It's unfortunate to see that his late career has been kind of very, very mixed. He had a film called Mother with Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. That movie was very, very divisive. I personally didn't like that film. I felt like it was very, very heavy-handed. And while I can understand what it was trying to do with its biblical imagery, I really, really feel like it missed the mark. Then he also did Noah, which again, that's another super divisive film. And it really, really does take a lot of liberties with the biblical story of Noah. It's an interesting watch to say the least, but it does leave a lot to be desired. He's taken a long break from filmmaking and he's been focusing on a lot of environmental things, and I truly respect what he's been doing. But I was really eager for him to get back into filmmaking and to kind of bless us with another fantastic movie. When I heard he was making a new film with Brendan Fraser, and it was going to be like a small indie film with a strong commentary about obesity, I was truly, truly excited to see this film. When it premiered at the film festivals and all the hype began to kind of circulate around Brendan Fraser's performance, I was all on board basically to see what was going to happen. Brendan Fraser now, he's gotten an Oscar nomination, he's won a few awards. It's looking like there's a very strong chance that he actually wins Best Actor this year. He does have some fierce competition. He's going to be facing against Colin Farrell and as well as Austin Butler. They're his two main competition, I would say, in that category right now. So it's anyone's game between those three at this point. I was very excited to see what Brendan Fraser would do in this film as basically like a comeback performance. It was super exciting. I was really rooting for this movie, guys. Absolutely. I also think Darren Aronofsky needed a return to form after the last 10 years of films that he's made. I also really thought that a film with a really strong commentary about obesity would be fantastic, and it's kind of very needed right now. We always have these talks about body positivity and so on and so forth, but I feel like this type of topic has not been really broached in a good way. I'll just say this, guys, I'm incredibly happy for Brendan Fraser's comeback, all his nominations and his wins and all the attention he's getting, and it's like he's become a household name all over again, and I truly love that. If anyone deserves that over the past 15 20 years or so, it's really him. He's earned his stripes in Hollywood. He's a guy that everyone just seems to love, and every time you hear him talk, he's not only super well spoken, but he's just like a really warm soul. So again, I was rooting for him as well. His performance here is worthy of all the hype, no doubt about it. He's very, very solid in this film. And if he does win Best Actor over Colin Farrell or even Austin Butler, I would not be surprised, honestly. My personal pick is still Colin Farrell because that was a very, very incredible performance, and he's had such a really great year in 2022 with 3 strong performances. So I really think if it's the Best Actor of the year, Colin Farrell would win. This is a performance for the books, guys, and this is a performance that many, many people will feel the emotional resonance of. So that needs to be commended for sure. His performance here, it really tries to draw empathy, and the film succeeds at that. The only thing is, I would say that the film is basically like a pity party. There would have been no real other effect than drawing your empathy and making you feel sorry for this character. It's really unfortunate, and I have to say this film did not live up to the expectations. It really, really left me disappointed, and I tried to leave my expectations at the door because I started seeing a lot of mixed reviews popping up on Letterboxd and online. A lot of people say their performance is great, but the movie's not great. And, I took that with a grain of salt. I wanted to see it for myself. I really feel like this film did not do enough with the material here present. Within the first 15 minutes, it starts off with such stark and strong imagery because you have this really, really obese character sweating profusely. He has a circular water stain on his back that's reminiscent of a whale's blowhole, which is super interesting. The image kind of stays in your head. This character is jerking off to gay porn. He has a heart attack. He's fighting with his nurse, and he's also approached by a religious zealot. The sequence kind of ends with him violently eating a bucket of fried chicken in front of the TV. And right then and there, I could kind of see the type of tone that Aronofsky was going for this. And I must say that it almost felt like it was just super simplistic. It's almost the type of thing that you would expect from a film like this. it didn't really have any of the careful nuance that I wanted from a movie like this. But that's just me, you know. You guys might really have a different experience with this film, and if you do, I'm really happy for you. And if you can find more enjoyment in this than I did, then again, that's kudos to you. I mostly had a problem with a lot of the writing here. It's a chamber piece. It's mostly all set in the house, and it comes off very stagey and it comes off like a play. That's not really the big problem. The bigger problem is how the dialogue plays out. It's super on the nose, super shallow, and a lot of the imagery and the metaphors that are operating in this film are like super surface level, super like almost infantile, I should say. And I hate to put it that way. You have this character, you know, he's like this big obese man stuck in a house, and he's constantly like looking outside the windows, and he's you know, walking around this place struggling to get around. And it almost seems like it's kind of drawing a comparison to like a fishbowl, like he's a big fish in a small fishbowl. And then any glimpse you see of the outside world, you know, it's raining. Sometimes it feels like the house is engulfed in like water, or every other glimpse of outside is just mucky, gray, very glum. It really tries to hit you with that fishbowl imagery, which is not bad. I just think a lot more could have been done with that. Also, I think that it's super interesting. The film really talks about Moby Dick a lot. There's a lot of references to Moby Dick, the passages from Moby Dick, and people talking about Moby Dick and the text itself, which I feel like it's just super obvious and it's super shallow. I think a lot more could have been done there, a lot more nuanced approach to doing this. But again, it's very easy. It's like anybody could have thought of that. And then above all, you also have a lot of shots of Brendan Fraser's character and a lot of references to him being on a beach. And I mean, you know, beached whale, like that's again super obvious. It's very like surface level. Doesn't take much to think of something like that. So again, there's a lot of reasons why this didn't get a nomination for screenplay. It didn't get a nomination for best picture or best director. Because these things, it just doesn't make for a really great film, and it's just super unfortunate. Now, the real draw here in this film is the acting. So it's interesting because you have a bunch of different characters here at play that interact with Brendan Fraser's character, and all of them kind of represent different ways that we deal with somebody who has a weight issue in our lives. And I think that's a great idea in itself. It just wasn't explored properly. But luckily, all the actors here do a fantastic job. And I did mention Brendan Fraser's performance is phenomenal, so I won't go over it again. We do have Hung Chow in this film. She's also had a really great year between her performance here and in The Menu. She's nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role here. And I think she did the best possible job that she could, considering that really, in all honesty, I think that she had some of the worst written lines of dialogue, and she still managed to give so much with her performance here. It's just her character really didn't develop much, and her character didn't have a lot to chew on. It's a really big testament to her as an actress, because she did the most with what very little she had to work with. Sadie Sink is also in this film. Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. She's a really talented actress as well, and she has a lot of potential. I do see that. Unfortunately, her character here was super irritating, and I think the way she played her performance was kind of just lacking nuance. She was super smug, super aggressive, super bitter, and I understand that makes sense for her character, but she does have a small arc, you know, through a small change throughout this film. But I really wasn't sold on that arc, if I'm just being honest. So you see this character, she has one final emotional scene with Brendan Fraser near the end, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that we had gotten there with these characters. You didn't really see that progression in her performance. You know, it was really just one note of bitterness throughout the whole thing until the end. So it's unfortunate, and I do see that she's a very capable actress, and she probably is going to have a really bright future in this industry. This just wasn't the role that indicates that. And I really just think that that's due to the character and how little direction that Aronofsky gave her to work with. Samantha Morton is also in this film, and she has a very small role. But again, I feel like she was very similar to Sadie Sink. So there was very little contrast in their performances. They were both just super bitter and super angry towards Brendan's character. I didn't really see any progression. It was just kind of a pity party of watching people either be super selfish to Brendan's character, take advantage of him, or treat him like utter crap. And unfortunately, that's really what most of the movie is. In contrast to that, like, you have Brendan's character be super overly optimistic. Like, people keep treating him badly, but he keeps seeing the best in everybody. I find that again super hard to believe. And the commentary there about how obese people see the world and how obese people are treated and what they make of it is very surface level, because I think personalities are way more multifaceted and multi-layered than that. I think there was just a lot of missed potentials with these characters. And another missed potential, there's a religious character that I mentioned earlier. He has a very interesting arc, but it's mostly all told in backstory. You have him kind of reach a pinnacle in his arc, but as soon as he reaches that pinnacle, it falls right back down into like muddy territory. I understand Darren Aronofsky is a religious person now, and he tries to imbue as much of his beliefs into his scripts as possible. But I think the commentary there is almost like fat phobic in a sense, and also homophobic in a sense, which is super unfortunate because Brendan's character in this film is either gay or bisexual. It's not really ever fully clear. They portray it in a very negative way. They don't portray it in an honest way, which is a big flaw. And then it's also kind of shunned by almost every character. Like Sadie Sink's character makes fun of him for being gay. The religious character makes fun of him for being gay. Even Brendan's character kind of is ashamed of it and he hides it. So that commentary in itself is very problematic, I find. And I think a lot of people will have issues with that. And I've seen a lot of discourse about that on Letterboxd and on Twitter. So that says a lot about the film. I'll be honest, guys, I've struggled with my weight on and off my whole life. You know, I've lost weight, I've gained weight. It's always been a bit of an issue with me. So this film should have really hit home. Obviously, I've never even gotten close to like 600 pounds or to the course of the whale, but surely people have called me a whale, you know, growing up. I've definitely gotten bullied about my weight. I've grown a tough shell about it, but it's also a topic that means a lot to me. Furthermore, I actually have a short film coming out this year that's about weight issues. It's about body dysmorphia. So this should have really hit home for me in every aspect. I just really think that this film creates way too many affectations, like fake feelings, and it kind of really almost manipulates you in a way to feeling certain things. The topic is so universal, so I really do feel that this was a missed potential. At the end of the day, the film reaches emotional climaxes that are very intense, and most people have claimed to be, you know, crying by the end of the film. Unfortunately for me, I was kind of feeling the effects of an exploitation film. All the imagery of him eating and him being super overweight is almost played off like it's a very bad thing. And yes, sure, it is. You know, we've all seen stuff like My 600-Pound Neighbor or whatever that show is. You know, we see these people struggling with it, and it's almost like a disease. They can't stop themselves from eating. But I feel like this character is way more human than that. And I feel like the film should have really touched on that humanity a lot more, other than just have him be like this selfless, loving character. Because humanity is way more than that. There's a really interesting creative decision at the end. You'll know it when you see it. It's being memed to death at this point. I was laughing when that moment hit. And it's supposed to be like the most emotional and intense moment of the film. Like, it all leads up to this moment that really had me chuckling. And maybe I'm just cold to this type of stuff now, but I really think that, you know, the person who gave us Requiem for a Dream or The Wrestler or even Black Swan, he's capable of so much better. So I'm almost kind of left puzzled with the direction that The Whale took. It's probably my least favorite Aronofsky film at this point, and I hate saying that. I had so much hope for this movie. I was really rooting for this movie. I'm just glad I didn't see it in a theater, because if I was there with a lot of people crying and I was just the only guy laughing in the theater, I would have felt so bad. But it is what it is, guys. Unfortunately for me, this is just a great performance in a very bad movie. The more I thought about it, the more I ended up disliking it. It just didn't work for me. It does have a lot of merit, and I can't take that away from the film, but the nitty-gritty perspectives, the really simple metaphors and ideas, and the really bad dialogue held this back from being a movie I can recommend. So ultimately, I have a lot of issues with this film. You might be able to look past those issues, but I unfortunately could not. So guys, please drop some comments down below. Let me know if you've seen The Whale. What do you think of The Whale? Did you like it? Am I wrong? Am I being too harsh on it? I feel like I've been so harsh on the past like 6 or 7 movies I've reviewed. So I'm really hoping I can drop a positive review for you guys so it just doesn't look like I hate everything. But that's my review of The Whale, guys. We'll see on Oscar night how it does. We'll see if Brendan Fraser finally gets this like legendary Oscar that he's worked his whole career for, or will it go to Colin Farrell or Oscar Butler or any of the other nominees? We'll find out very soon. The Oscars are in like 3 weeks from now. So again, guys, my name's Nova. This is Film Express. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you later. See ya.